What is happening, people? Welcome back to the channel. KG is back. We're back with a new video. It's almost like a reaction to another video, which is not something I usually do. But I said before that I'd listened to the new Angus Kinnear interview with the Square Board. I said it a couple streams ago, and I've done so. And I listened to most of it, skimmed through some, but there was a lot of interesting points in there, and some you may have heard here in the summer. But we'll get into that in just a moment. And listen, please like the video if you haven't already. Really does help out the channel, really does help out engagement as well. So please hit a like if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and of course drop your comments and thoughts below of what you thought of the interview too. And listen, oh, shout out as well to Mike, who's become a member of the channel. That's 2 new members today. That's pretty good for me. It's pretty good. But listen, thank you for the support from all my existing members. I love all of you. Big up to all of you. Thank you for that continued support. If you want to join, the link is in the description. Stephen saying evening, KG. Evening to you, Stephen. And Chris going yo. He must have a yo-yo in his hand, but no. Bad joke, but yes, shout out to you as well, Chris. And look, reacting to other content isn't something that I usually do, but where we are in as a football club, and with it being the second year in the championship, I thought it was important just to see what Angus was saying. Now, I think we can all agree last year that interview was very, very how can we put it, politician like, shall we say. I feel like it was a bit, I think it was a lot better this year. In fact, I think he was a lot more open. I think he was a bit more transparent with the way things were. And listen, if you haven't seen it, you need to go onto the Square Board. It's like an hour and a half if you want to watch the full thing. Go on there for the full context of anything discussed today. But I'm going to take out a few points. Ryan saying scripted. Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, they do declare at the start that there's nothing scripted. They don't vet any questions and everything else like that. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. All I know is that when I've done, things with Leeds United, I think one was vetted, one wasn't. So it could be true. It could be true. One was vetted questions, one they let me go free. So that was pretty cool, actually. No Cap saying yes now, KG finally caught alive. Yeah, I am live, man. Chris saying, I've seen that pop up earlier. I'll give it a watch soon. Yeah. I mean, I've literally just finished watching it. So if there's anything that I missed that's key, then please draw me back into it and we can discuss it. But there was a lot of a few points in there that kind of confirmed what I was saying in the summer, which I found pretty like, oh, I'm good. I'm good. But then there was other things as well where he opened it up and shed a few lights on things as to why certain things didn't happen. So listen, no, wrong button. Here we go. Be professional. So here we are. Graham Smith here, who's obviously, I think he's been on the Square Ball a few times now, with those guys. Just saying here about Angus Kinnear puts a close position on record in a chat with the Square Ball. He did mention in regards to the failure of last season, and I found it quite interesting that Angus Kinnear used the word failure like I have. I don't know if it sounds any different coming from Angus Kinnear, but when I've said it, a lot of people push back on it. He mentioned about the 90 points, but, the host, Dan, rightly so, said, yeah, 90 points would have done it in previous years, but this is the season you're playing. It wasn't enough. He also spoke about, were they looking at the data, or what the reasons why we collapse after that last international break, after Easter. And, they said they look into it. Obviously, they're not going to reveal everything, but there's things that they can do better, things that they want to improve on, things that they know they can do better. Daniel Farker, is he going to change the systems? Well, I think we've seen already so far. Yes, kind of. We've changed a couple of systems at times. But there was a few interesting points as well. And it's these kind of confirmations where, I know I'm not crazy. Like, my eyes don't lie to me. And when I've said before, our base of attack was through 2 players and 2 players only, people push back on it. But even Angus Kinnear said today there was a reliance on 2, and he then mentioned 3 players. I think he was probably including Nonto, maybe / James at the same time with that. In regards to how we played. And that's why recruitment was so, looking to spread it out in terms of Ramazani, Solomon, and everyone else in between. Brendan Aronson coming back into the fold. It's going to be more spread out. And, I think that was pretty obvious anyway. You shouldn't be, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being reliant on one player. I mean, I literally saw Man United win a league with Cristiano Ronaldo from right wing. And the philosophy was give Ronaldo the ball and he will score. I think he got like 40 goals from right wing that season. It was incredible. But so it can work for you, but obviously it's not ideal. Listen, shout out to people just still coming in. Ina in the house. Shout out to you, Ina, man. Nice to see you again. And yes, as Chris says, hit the likes. The sale of Archie Gray. Now, obviously, this was something, and Nigel's alluding to it here. This was something that was a hot topic in the summer. I think the two times that my comments were just in a frenzy was the Archie Gray sale and maybe the Jorginho time. The Jorginho one was pretty interesting as well. But the Archie Gray one was obviously one that was a bit closer to home because of his allegiance with the football club, his family's, history with the football club. But guys, it was, if you believe what he said, and I do believe it, I believe it with this one because just speaking to agents and players around, it's how it goes. But in regards to Archie's contract, no one was pushed out. There had to be two player sales. He made this clear multiple times. It didn't have to be Archie Gray. It didn't have to be Somerville. It could have been Verba. More worryingly, people, he said it could have been Strauch. It could have been Ampadu. It could have been anyone. It could have been any of two combinations at that point in time for PSR reasons. But Archie Gray and his camp were insistent on the release clause. And I don't know, people will probably still be in denial about it just because they don't want to believe it. That's fine. But it was pretty obvious, and it's nothing what I hadn't said before. And that's where you kind of feel a little bit of vindication when you come on here and speak about these things, because there's no way that Archie Gray was going to spend another year in the championship with that release clause. And I think he made that clear. He said, Archie Gray's got a path. He was being looked at by Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and all these other big clubs. Why would he then spend another year in the championship with Leeds? Now, ideally, it would have been good to go up, and Archie Gray would have been with Leeds, and we could have done the journey together. But he was safeguarding his career, which I think a few fans have a real hard time wrapping their heads around. In that, yes, he's a Gray, but this is a new era of Grays. I don't want to say it, but Leeds isn't at the forefront of these guys' mind. It's not. It's their careers. It's where they preference. It's opportunity and it's money. And Angus Kinnear said the contract he signed at Tottenham is a contract that he probably could never sign here at Leeds United. It's that lucrative. So you can see why, in terms why Archie Gray left. His agent himself, they had the projection of being in the Premier League at a certain time with his talent, because he is a top talent. They'll never take that away from Archie. He is a top talent, and hopefully Tottenham get the usage out of it. But Angus Kinnear also said as well, I don't see that being his final destination, which is very interesting considering the relationship we have with Spurs. I'm not sure Daniel Levy and his friends will like that comment being out there, but he's right. And I say the same about Somerville too. I don't see West Ham being Somerville's final destination either. It's one of those things though, isn't it? But they have to make the right move for their career. And like Chris says here, makes sense. Gray's on a faster trajectory than Leeds. Yeah. And it goes to something else that he said in the interview as well, in regards to players in the past that will crawl over hot coal to move to Burnley and Ipswich in the Prem rather than stay at Leeds. And again, that's something else a lot of fans have a hard time wrapping their heads around, because it doesn't make sense. Why would you leave Leeds United to go Burnley? But it's the riches and opportunity of the Premier League, people. And it was good that he clarified that, because, Dan, the host was pushing him on that. Was it a club decision to move him out? Was it Archie Gray? But in the end, it was a mutual thing. It was a bit of both. It benefited both Leeds United, and it suited Archie Gray for his career. Because he even said, there was this thing as well where Dan pushed back to him and said, yeah, but earlier Archie Gray said he never wanted to leave, and then Angus said, yeah, but in the same interview he says, I can't wait to play for Ange and play for Tottenham. It's just how the game is, people. It's a game. It's the game is the game, people. Chris saying here it hurts, but it's modern day football. Yeah, I mean, Chris, it's been football for probably even 20 years, but it's just so more transparent now. And I guess when you speak to agents and everyone else in between, you get an even broader picture of how it works. And that's why I was pretty much on the money with this prediction for Archie Gray, or my guess for what happened with Archie Gray. There was another one in terms of loan signings, and again, this is something else that I said through the summer. It was that the loan signings that will want to come in would want first team football. So, you know, whether it be a Raksaki or someone else like that, he was saying, no, we want to, if we're coming here, we want to play. And I'm looking at Willie Nonto, I'm looking at Dan James, I'm not going to play. That was Angus Kinnear's quote himself. And that's what made it harder for us in terms of getting those kind of loan players. One thing in terms of Manor Solomon coming in, that was like a Premier League signing. I completely agree with that. Because where we failed with a couple of other players, which we'll get into in a bit, we did succeed with Manor Solomon, who apparently did have Premier League interest. We knew there was interest from Ajax and teams around Europe, but the fact that he came to Leeds United is a big pull and should be a big deciding factor in a lot of games, as he should rip this. Not, I'm paraphrasing here, but should, you know, be much better than this league, and I completely agree with that. There was some names here. I don't know if any of these are going to be shocking to you. Some will be ones that we have absolutely, Ryan. Solomon is a cheat code if kept fit, big time. That's the thing. Got to keep him fit because we've already seen him sourcing, and there's more to come for me with that player. It's all about just keeping those knees together, though, man. Let's keep those knees together. Pause. But you know what I mean. I hear that, Ian. Ian saying, I still take what the third wise man said. That's very funny. With a pinch of salt. I do understand that, though, Ian. It's just that with a few things that he was saying, again, this is just from me speaking to people within the game. It kind of makes sense, much more so than that garbage he was spewing last year. In terms of like we was looking at Jaden Anthony from July. No, you weren't, mate. But you know, a few things in this one did make sense. Of course, there's always going to be corporate drivel in there. You just have to weave around it and skip past it and skim over it, if you will. But a lot of things did make sense. In terms of some players that we were linked with, let's speak about Gus HAMER, which was obviously the one. And fair play to the square ball guys for saying it. Look, it didn't make sense for you to go in at one offer and then just leave it there. And it, by the way, it was a low ball offer, which again, I've said before, it's not about not knowing how to negotiate people. It's no, Sheffield United were never going to play ball at 13 million. You know, they were never going to do that. And I think you can upset the club if you low ball them like that, and they can just shut it off. Well, they shut it off anyway. That's the reason why we didn't go back in, apparently, because we weren't. Sheffield United say that he's not for sale, and he's certainly not for sale to Leeds United, which makes a lot of sense in light of the stories we've heard, etc. With Chris Wilder, you know, basically saying to Sheffield United, "Look, if you sell him, I'm walking." Which, you know, Chris Wilder's got form, hasn't he? So you can imagine that being true. The other one, in terms of the player that we were linked to, not linked to, but we're trying to attain, was Emi Buendia. And I was with Connor, and I cannot for the life of me remember if it was me or Connor that said Emi Buendia would be interesting at this level. But Emi Buendia made it clear that he's not dropping down to the Championship, and Villa said he's not for sale anyway. So that one was dead. And I do appreciate that kind of ambition. And the square ball guys kind of push back on it and say, well, if you're shopping in those markets and you're not getting them, why shop in those markets? Which I think was quite that was very much a fan question, because if you're not shopping in those markets and you go for players that aren't to the quality, then you start moaning about the players that you signed and not being up to the standard. So I completely get why we're trying to go in those markets in our current situation. Yeah, I mean, listen, FE White saying it's all down to money. We would all do the same if it was offered to us. Yeah, it's an interesting one with that. And just away from Leeds, just temporarily, people saying that Ivan Toney's career is finished, when everyone in life, whether it be you, me, everyone else, is trying to get the best possible deal financially for you and your family. Ivan Toney's done that and then some. You know what I mean? He's getting some generational wealth here. So is his career over or is it blossoming? It's interesting how the narrative is spin, can, you know, depend on where the player's going or where he's signed for, isn't it? It's crazy. Ryan saying Buendia would have been great. He would have been great in this division, man. That would have been like, imagine that Solomon, Buendia, and Nanto. It's nasty, but it was a long shot. And I think even, I know he had a long-term injury, but that's a player that you take a chance on at this level. That would be another cheat code. For me, the thing is with Buendia, he's one of those for me where I don't like him at Premier League level. I don't think he's consistent enough. I think he goes out of games far too much in the Prem. But at Championship level, he's cooking weekly. weekly on that stove. So I would have loved for that to have happened, but it wasn't there. Yeah, you got to take this. If you don't mind moving to Saudi, of course, there's living and everything. If you don't mind moving, Ivan Toney's getting over 400,000 a week. Regardless of tax, makes sense. Ryan saying signing Harmer and Wilder resign over it would have been Christmas come early. Yeah, I mean, again, looking at the betterment of Leeds United, but I hear you. There's humor in it, I guess. Um, Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ryan, I would have rated that signing the same as Solomon. Yeah, big time, big time. There was others as well that he mentioned. James McAtee, they were interested in getting him, but Man City have clearly, embedded McAtee into the team. Fabio Carvalho was another one. They felt they would have been at front of the queue for that kind of deal, but Liverpool then sell him to Brentford for like 27 million. So that obviously was never going to be a go. The other one, of course, is that we've got Brendan Aronson in, and he was saying that if we had signed Brendan Aronson this summer, then people would have been accepting of it. I don't do the whole an old player is a new signing. I don't do that like a new signing BS that people do when someone's been injured for like a year. Oh, he's coming back. It's like a new signing. No, he was here before. But I understood what he was saying in terms of the options of Nonto playing there and Aronson, and that they couldn't find anyone better. That's where I push back though. And I've got to be honest, I push back on that bit because how can you not find somebody for at this level that can be an effective player for you? Because now we've already seen it already. Dan James is going to be out for 4 weeks. That means we are a spotlight on the bench already. The squad is fairly small as it is. One body out means that the quality of the bench just goes down that little bit more. So I do question that in terms of the inability to find a 10. It's not hard. Again, with this football club, we make certain signings very, very difficult in terms of an out and out left back, just a natural left sided left back. We make it seem like there's nothing out there when there is. But yeah, FV White saying we should still pump this league with the team we have. No excuses. Let me just take a sip here. 1000%. And Angus Kinnear has pretty much said that today. And he's like me. He mentioned today that when we go up, because I'm certain we'll go up. That's usually the kiss of death, but I'm certain we are. He even mentioned as well about on paper the league being weaker. Now he's right again with that. That's something that I've said, and a lot of you have said as well. Even though some of you still trying to talk up a few of these teams like they're better than they are, with the players that we've got, and he mentioned as well with the sales of like Jorginho and Somerville that they've allowed us to keep, the better players like Ampadu and Strauch and other players. He was talking about Melier not being a championship goalkeeper. Yeah, I don't agree with that, but market says that he can possibly go to a higher league. So cool. But he's just saying there that there's a base of a team here and what we've added to it that should be strong enough for promotion. And I definitely agree. Ryan here saying, yeah, the league definitely not strong. It's not as strong. It's nowhere near. The teams that came down are not even a patch on Southampton or Leicester. And if someone doing it Ipswich again, it's rare. And if it happens again, it means that from here on out, we need to look out for every single League One team that gets promoted and say, oh, could they do it 2 in a row? Maybe Birmingham City have got the opportunity maybe to do it, but it's very, very rare. And that's why we just need to get it right this season. We have to get this right in terms of what we've got at our disposal, which is a lot. Angus even said today, or whenever this was filmed, that we rejected loads of players offers for players over 10 million for numerous players that we have, which other teams in the league would have accepted. And again, I agree with that. We are playing with a different budget compared to other teams, as I've showed you already, in terms of the information I got from an agent of what we were looking for. When we compare that to other teams in this division, they're not even playing in the same ballpark as Leeds United. And I'm sure even Luton Town, I know they've just signed Victor Moses, but I'm sure even they can't afford the wages that we are paying out to some of these players that we've got right now. So that is why we have got a big advantage in this season as to go up in the top two, which Angus Kinnear said that is the aim. Yeah, Ryan saying potential to add in January too. Yeah, there is. There's a lot of wiggle room. He already said, didn't he? In that interview, he said that he only needed 2 sales. So then when you add in that Jorginho 40 million, which he said, well, and I give him credit for that because usually they don't like to disclose figures, but he was saying about the 40 million for Jorginho being unbelievable, and I do say that as well. I said this at the time when we sold him, even though it was disappointing that he left. The fact we got 40 million for Jorginho is a tremendous deal. And you just think about other teams in this division, they can't sell a player for 40 million like that. Unless they were Leicester with a Madison or Harvey Barnes, they're not selling a player that's had one good year in the championship for 40. But that's what you get. You get the Leeds United rub people. He was also talking about Jonathan Rowe and Jack Clark. Said there was no monetary issues with those. It was just the opportunity of playing in League One for Jonathan Rowe and the Premier League for Jack Clark. So there you go. You're going to miss out on those players for those reasons, which I've said on here many times before. Chris saying hopefully a right winger in January or a 10, whatever he prefers. Well, it will be dictated by what we're doing by then. There's going to be a lot of months in between games. I do think that we need another right winger. Because with Dan James being out, we're now going to have whatever it is, we're going to have a makeshift right winger. Because Willie Nonto's best position is off the left or centrally. He can play the right. We've seen that before, but ideally you want him off the left or down the middle. Ramazani, he's naturally gifted down the left. Solomon, he's naturally gifted down the left. So we're going to have to make shift. Brendan Aronson can play there, but again, he's more of a central player. So we have got gaps in our team. But what I would say, people, is other teams have more gaps or gaps that they don't have near the quality that we do. And as people keep pointing out to me, and we talk about if one of our centre backs go out with Max Verber being out, you can move Ampadu back in there if you want, and then play Gruev and Tanaka or Rothwell. So that there are options that we can move around, but obviously we would like to strengthen it up just that little bit more. But yeah, Malcolm here with the super chat. Yep, thank you, Malcolm, for that support, man. Big up to you, always supporting the channel. So big up and thank you. What else was there from here? What else was there of note? Just about Joe Roden in terms of him wanting to be in the kit launches, because as we saw when the kits were launched, Joe Roden's in there, and it's like, how did they get that done? Because I know this myself from being in the kit launches. They do these pictures months in advance, as you could see with Mateo Joseph here, by the way, as you can see just above here. They do these months in advance. So obviously Joe Roden was obviously desperate to come back, and he did have Premier League interest, but he was committed to finishing the job at Leeds United. He obviously very happy here, and I'm glad that he's back. You know, they very, very good on Joe Roden to be here and come back in that kind of thing when you could have been playing Premier League football. A lot to be said about that. So, you know, big up to Joe Roden. Let's have a look. Chris here saying, any of our players would walk into all other teams. That's something that he said. He said that I'm confident that a lot of our a lot of our players that we have would walk into nearly everybody's first 11. He's right. I think the only one in certain areas you could say is probably Sheffield United in terms of a couple of players they have, because Gustavo Hamer is a class act at this level, and I would say Harrison Burrows at left back. But guys, this is why I say that, and Angus Kinnear pretty much echoed this. This is why you need to be going into a lot of these games thinking you're going to win. You know, you're not going to win every game. There's going to be drop points at some point, but you should win a majority, and that's what separates you from finishing in the top two and being in the playoffs. Yeah, Gavin, that's fair, Gavin. Can Joe be desperate to repeat last year's performances, please? Listen, I will admit it's not been the quickest start for Joe Roden, but at the end of the day, him and Pascal are still. It's kind of a weird one, isn't it? They were playing together at the start of last year, but then Pascal's been injured for a long time, so it's kind of like they're getting to know each other a bit again. But we still kept a few clean sheets in a row at the same time. So if that's the level and we're keeping clean sheets now, imagine when he actually does get back into full flow again, Joe Roden will be flying, absolutely flying. So I've got no concerns about Joe Roden. Interestingly enough, as well, just that we're going to be all over the place here because I'm trying to remember. It's an hour 30-minute interview, but I'm just getting the bits that I watched and took in. In terms of when we do go back up, there was talking about the gulf between the Premier League and Championship. There will be some churn in the team, which I've already said. I feel like if we had gone up last season, there was a real good base to build off. You know, a really good base to build off. But now, obviously, we've lost literally 40 million pound players. Somerville up to 35 eventually. We've lost a lot of that talent. So there's going to be a lot of, things that we're going to need to do when we do go up. But obviously we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. He's also talking about the PSR thing. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but the interesting thing he was talking about in terms of the incomes and the sizes is that Leeds, Newcastle, Aston Villa could threaten the top six if we were allowed to. If we could spend what we want, but the top six want to keep the status quo, which I've said on here before. The only thing PSR helps are the big six. That's all it does, because it just means whenever anyone else gets close, as we've seen with Aston Villa this summer, they've literally just got Champions League, but then they're scurrying around trying to sell Douglas Luiz, who was a key player from last year, doing that whole, selling academy players to one another just to make the books. It doesn't do anyone any favors, but he's saying that it's going to be even stricter. So we'll look out for that. Ryan saying, yeah, we lost the Stardust. Yeah, you lose that and you build off that. That's the thing. It's hard to replace. You know what I mean? It's easy to get or to develop, but once you lose it, man, you got to get it back. And we've lost that. And you can build off those players. Just think about Archie Gray just playing another year comfortable at Leeds United. Somerville feeling like he's the man at Leeds United in the Prem. Jorginho, we've lost those, so we're gonna have to replace them when we go up, because if we're being honest, what we've got at this point in time is more than good enough for the Championship. But when we go to the Prem, we're gonna have to strengthen this up. There's no two ways about it, and that's even just to finish 17th. People, if we were to go up right now, we wouldn't have Solomon. So let's take him out of the equation. He's on loan. If we was to go up right now with the team we have, it would be a tough year. Very, very tough. That's the golfing class, people. It's a reality as well. I'm not trying to be sensationalist. Watch Premier League football and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Chris Prickerin saying, next summer we can splash the cash. We will have the cash. Yeah, and they kind of alluded to this, and there's no way of knowing until we actually go up. But it's kind of one of those things where, because we're under such tight restraints at this level, that once we go to the Prem, that's when you can really judge the 49ers, because they want to invest. And in fact, they've invested tens of millions in order to help keep this club, having players like Ampadu and all these guys and everything else in between. They're talking about stadium development, but, we've heard this one for feels like 10 years now in terms of that. But yeah, there's going to be restrictions, but nowhere near what we're playing with now, people. This is tight. All this stuff is very, very tight right now. So when you get to the Premier League, it just opens up a whole different world. It's night and day. It's absolutely night and day compared to the Championship. It's not even close in terms of what you can do and what you can get, and also what you can keep. That's the key thing. That there's no. Maybe he would go Brighton, because Brighton are a very well run football club. But let's say we go up last season. Is Jorginho rushing out the door to join Brighton rather than stay at Leeds? I doubt it. I doubt it very much. But the potential at this football club, and this is something Angus, and he's the guy, whatever we think of him, or how oily he may be, he sees the books, he sees all the numbers, he knows all of this. And it's nothing that that we don't know. This club has got the potential to be absolutely huge again. And this is what I keep preaching on here. That's why I don't settle for mediocrity when it comes to this football club. When we've got the current players that we've got, when we've got the owners that we've got, when we've got the manager that we've got in terms of his credentials at this level, that's why I can't settle for mediocrity. I won't settle for it until we suddenly strip everything out and say Leeds United are now just going to be a self-run, middle of the road team. No need. We're going to take out seats. No longer going to be 40,000, 36,000. We're going to go back. I will adjust my expectations accordingly. But until that day happens, I'm going to keep on striving for this football club to be as great as it should be. Mike saying here, bottom half Premier League teams have 25, 30 million players all through the starting 11. Definitely would have some work to do. Yeah, I mean, again, though, it's not about the amount you spend on players, Mike, and everyone else. If you can spend that on players that are of quality, that's cool. But Mike, we did that. And he was mentioning this today. We overspent on certain players. And I think he's talking about some of them now. I mean, him even saying if we spent half of what we did on Brendan Aronson this summer kind of tells you a bit of a story. But we did that and it didn't help us. But there's been other teams, Mike and everybody else, that haven't spent that kind of money, but have recruited so well. And then eventually, now you see Brighton this summer, Jorginho, Matt O'Reilly. Is it Matt Riley? Matt O'Reilly, the Danish guy, man. They've spent money on him, Kadioglu at fullback. Now they're bearing the fruits of all of the good work they've done previously. And we just didn't do that. We overshot, we overspent on a lot of dross, if we're being honest, and we didn't do it right. I do think that the 49ers, when they go back up, will get it more right than not, but proof will be in the pudding, of course. Um, Ryan here saying, look at Ipswich, have just spent at least 100 mil. Yeah. And the thing is, Ryan, for me, I'll make it, I'm going to say it again. They've championship proofed that team. So basically, if they come back down, if they keep a majority of that squad, that is the favorite of all favorites to go up next season, because, or the season after, yeah, no, next season, yes, because that squad is championship, but it's top end. You're talking Jack Clark, you're talking some real good talent in there, Amari Hutchinson. But if they survive, they build on it. But if they come down, they'll say, okay, we've got these players. Schmadix will maybe stay in as well. We're gonna have another crack at it and go back up the year after. And that's probably what they've done. For me, I don't want that for this football club. I want us to buy. Yes, you can buy the best of the best from the championship if you need to, but there's players around Europe that we can attract at this great football club that will help us go to the next level easy as well. Yeah, exactly, Ryan. It's like promotion insurance, big time. Um, so Gavin here saying the AK interview is reality, guys. Let's back this current team. My only worry now is the double pivot at home. Now, listen, we're doing the preview tomorrow, Gavin. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But it was reality, and I think sometimes, whether you want to believe it or not, listen, I'm not saying believe everything he says. I'm not saying that for one moment, but there was a lot of things in there that did make a lot of sense in terms of what he was saying. But it does bring the reality back to where we are in our second year in the championship, and just some of the restraints that we find ourselves with, and the fact that we've left with Ampadu, with Strout, with getting Rodon back in, getting Ramazani in, Solomon in, that kind of talent is a testament to how strong this team is this season and should get the job done. There has to be a big inquest if we don't go up this season, a big inquest, because it failed somewhere, and that's what I would say. Um, Okay, Mike just saying, I'm with you on that. Ampadu, Ramazani, Nonto, guys like that all have potential to be 25 players, 25 million players. More talk about their level rather than what you pay for them. Yeah, big time. Yeah, of course, of course, of course. I mean, listen, we thought we did something with a few of those signings, but man, they sucked. They sucked. They weren't. And the thing is, like a Mark Rucker, for instance, and I'm not picking on Mark Rucker, but he's one example here. You could say Llorente, you could say Robin Koch, but they where other teams seem to get those gems from those leagues, we seem to get the absolute bottom of the barrel, and it just didn't work out. Mark Rucker is a fine footballer, and he'll do well in La Liga, but he's never a Premier League player. But I think that the recruitment is a bit more diligent now. It isn't just Victor Orta going up to him and getting a feeling, saying, "Oh yes, I want you," and then signing them. I think it's a bit more thought out now, we should say. Paul Gray is saying here, don't go up this year. Can see it being wilderness years again. It really is make or break this year. But look, I mean, I've said it on here before, but Angus even said himself, it gets uglier the longer you stay down here. So, guys, I've said it already. If you don't think this team is good enough to go up, cool. But then you're really not going to think what team we have next season if we don't go up is going to be good enough, because we will not have Ampadu. We will certainly not have Strauch. Probably won't even have Rodon, if we're being real. We won't have Nonto, who we also said we rejected many bids for, which is pretty obvious as well. The team would look severely different. Severely different. James is saying, when we go back up, hopefully the 49ers sail. Hopefully the 49ers sail. The player. Oh man, come on, James, man, help me out here. Hopefully the 49ers sell the play. Okay, I got you, James. Sell the players that aren't prem ready and not keep the players because they're fan favorites. Yeah, got you, man. Got you. I think got you there. But yes, I mean, look, look, we've already seen it. There's only a few of them left anyway, but you've got to know the difference. And that's what I'm saying. If we were to go with this team as it stands, we are getting relegated. Like, there's no ifs or buts. We would be one of the worst three teams. You cannot go up with a goalkeeper that we've got, and you can't go up with a lack of striking competition for Mateo Joseph that we've got right now. You can't do it. This is the Premier League, people. You can get away with it at this level. You can't get away with it at the Prem. And we found that out so like big time in our second go around. We was going up against teams, and a lot of it was on the coaching, depending on whichever coach it was, whether it was Bielsa, Marshall, whoever. But we would be teams relief. You know, Crystal Palace never scoring 3 goals in a game for over 2 years. In comes Leeds, and we give them 4. You know, Mateta, not Mateta, AU, all these scrubs that got goals, you know, and not regular scorers. We were the people that were giving out gifts, and we don't want to be that team again. So it is imperative that we get the things right on the pitch when we go up. You know, I know a lot of fans are attached to a lot of these players because they're playing well now, but it's important that you have the foresight and vision to see that there's a big difference from playing Plymouth to even playing Palace in the Prem. Big difference. You know what I mean? It's all right, James. I got you, man. I got you in the air, man. I kind of get what you're saying here. Paul here saying, had Forshaw, Ayling, and Bamford on our bench for 3 years into the Prem. Can't happen again. Got to avoid that. Paul, you probably remember this. Maybe that's what triggered you, but I remember doing a match reaction for the game, and I seen those 3 on the bench and thinking, what are we doing here? This is the Premier League. Like, this is the big Premier League, and we're trying to go with Click and Forshaw at this level with Lewis Bate in reserves. What were we doing? What was we trying to accomplish here? You know what I mean? And that's where we have to get real, and hopefully the fans get real too, because you remember all the chats in there. Forshaw's quality. Look at his heat map. Come on, guys. Yeah, that's where you have to get real at that level, you know, and not let this kind of thing happen again. And I'm hoping it will be third time lucky with this. Mike will let go of Seshko, you know, that Red Bull little connection, you know, they might give us on loan. Imagine that. Nah, I'm joking. He ain't coming on loan. But yeah, Mike just saying Seshko buying this time, waiting for us to go up. Can't make him wait another season. He's waited long enough. You know, he just scored a hattie just the other day as well on international duty. He's keeping us in his brain. You know what I'm saying? FV White saying in the Premier League we would need 8 quality upgrades. Ooh, at least. But you know what you can do with that? You can make it easy for yourself by signing absolute bona fide studs in certain positions and protecting yourselves. If you don't know, as the saying goes, you buy cheap, you buy twice. You know what I mean? And that's what will happen to us if we don't get it right this time around. But guys, we got to go up first. We got to go up first. You know what I mean? What else is there that was key from this interview? What else was there? Yeah, development. Nah, not really that. What else was there? Was there anything else that was super key? I think that may be it. Yeah, I know. We was making scrubs break their ducks. You know what I mean? Even Almere and that Beyblade scored against us. We were jokes. Now we were jokes in the Premier League. And when you look back at it, it's not a fun time for me. You can talk about the year with no fans as much as you want. For me, that's not even real football. Whether you agree or not, that's cool. You know, there's some nice memories in there, the whole Dallas double. But when the fans came back in, we were a joke, man. We was an absolute joke, and that's what I want to avoid when we go back up. We cannot be that again. It was a joke. You know, teams were actually praising. I mean, I remember at one point teams praising Bielsa for the way he played. It was because they knew that they were going to like batter us. That's what it was. It was like, oh, we got Leeds next. Oh, I can't wait for this one. We was a joke in the Prem, but it's time for us to get serious again. I think the 49ers and even Angus Kinnear to a certain point is big on that. He wants us back there in terms of where the club should be. Talking about as well the TV money, just something else I remembered, went from being on like near 30 million or something like that. Or what was it again? Oh, I can't remember the figures. Go and watch it. But we now get like 30,000 in the championship per TV game or something like that. the numbers are just, it's just ridiculous. It's like two different, you'd never believe it was the same. Like one league was just one league above. It's incredible. It's incredible. But yeah, we've lost a lot of TV money. There's always demand for Leeds United to be on TV, as we know, people. You know, the whole Sky Sports lead thing. But yeah, we can't capitalize on it at championship level. It's only at Prem. Uh Ian saying, KG, we did beat Liverpool at home. No, we beat them away. We was the first ones to beat them in quite some time. I think we handed Van Dijk his first victory, his first loss at home. But again, no, and I mean with that, Ian, I mean, did we beat Liverpool? No, we didn't beat Liverpool at home. Salah score a hat trick against us? But no, even in that though, I mean, we got that win at Anfield in the year we got 31 points. So I mean, it really didn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. That's what I mean. Like, it's funny. I was watching an Arsenal fan earlier talking about finishing third and second doesn't mean anything to them. It's only about winning titles, and that's where you go with like context. Because for me, finishing third with Leeds United again would be an absolute dream. You know what I mean? I would not be scoffing at that at all. But that's what I'm talking about. When I remember victories against Liverpool and Man United and all that, we was finishing in the top 5 in the country, people, top 4. Now, I mean that's the level I want us to be back at again. Um, what was that? Ryan say, "Oh, Van Dijk." Yeah, he mentioned it the other week in the interview. It still bothers him. Yeah. Mike saying, "Yeah, we can put that win at Anfield next to our 90-point trophy." Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean, Mike. And listen, no disrespect to Ian, but in the grand scheme of things, 90 points and a win at Anfield when you get relegated, 90 points when you don't get promoted. What does it mean? You know, that's it. The bigger picture, what does it actually mean? So, you know what? Everyone else, I would rather get 70 points this year, go up automatically, don't care. As long as we go up, you know what I mean? Um, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ivan Tony just ripping us apart. I mean, it was we was embarrassing, man. And it was worse when I had to come on here and just, doing match reactions, talking about us getting pumped every week. It's demoralizing, man. Like you could see it in my face. I remember looking at some of my videos back and just seeing it. I just look like this, guys. Liverpool 6, Leeds United nil. When will it end? You know what I mean? It's torture. So, and listen, when we go back up, we are going to lose games again. I'm not Delulu. You know what I mean? It's going to be tough, but you can make it easy for yourself, and the job will be just to survive. But yeah, I cannot think of anything else key from this interview. I think I've mentioned everything. The loan players we were linked with, we got to keep money pumped back into the club. There was stuff about ticketing, but I forward past that. Just for me personally, ticketing isn't really concern me. Um, and it seems to be an ongoing issue anyway with all the members and stuff. But yeah, yeah, I think that's it. If there's anything else that I've missed, people just put it in the comments, and I'll give my opinion to it if I've missed it or anything else like that. Um, yeah, Mike. See, we can laugh about it now. We can laugh about it now. But yeah, Mike saying you were giving off droopy dog vibes for a little bit there, depressing times. It was rough. And I remember the roughest time though was just before Bielsa got sacked, because we was literally going into every game and teams were just taking the piss out of us. They were taking the mix, sorry, I should say. And then we get a game where you think it's against our relegation rivals. Let's give them a bit of a game. It was Everton, and we even lose that one 3-0. And so when is this going to stop? Like, I can't take anymore. We had conceded like 60 goals at that period, and then the year we actually get relegated with all the manager changes and everything else like that. Yeah, it was just a lot, man. It was a lot, but yeah. But yeah, tough time, man. But hopefully we won't go through that again when we do go up again. But listen, people, I hope you've enjoyed the video, man. And like I say, if you want to see the full thing for full context, go and watch the Square Ball interview with Angus Kinnear. See if there's anything else you pick out that I may have missed or forgot to speak about on here. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop your comments below, people, and I'll see you tomorrow for the preview versus Burnley. Peace.